Wow, I'm actually pretty intrigued by this little Canon point-and-shoot super zoom. Stay tuned. I think you will be too. Oh, I can move.
This camera is one of the few remaining point-and-shoots still for sale. Perhaps that's why it's a top seller at B&H and very highly rated and often frequently backordered. Don't let the camera's small size fool you. It has an incredible zoom. Look at that. And it's great for birding and for concerts too, because you know, if you try to bring a professional camera into a concert, well, you'll get tossed right out. I took this camera to an outdoor concert and I'm going to show you the results, and to the big Macy's July 4th fireworks, and to Manhattan Edge where the sun sets almost right on the avenues to give a really cool look. You're going to see all that. So you're going to get a sense of how this camera actually performs. Because physically, well, there's not much to talk about besides that 40 times zoom, but otherwise it's a basic point-and-shoot camera. If you're looking for fancy features, well, this doesn't have it. There's no raw image support. There's no mic jack. It's not an action camera. It's not weather sealed. For video, it's only 4K 30, not 4K 60. There's only one SD card slot. There's a recording limit of 30 minutes. You do get a HDMI output though, and it does come with a dedicated battery charger. Hey, that's a nice change. And the 4K 30 video that it does shoot is nice and crisp, and if you also are into shooting 1080p 60, well, it can do that too. But it does have a few tricks that it offers, like the ability to capture still frames from your 4K video. It can do time-lapse right from in-camera, and there's also a pretty cool black and white grainy mode, which I kind of like.
There is no viewfinder in this camera, and that's unfortunate because you're forced to rely on the rear screen, and it creates a lot of glare outside. Also, when you're zoomed in real tight, it's so much nicer to be able to put your eye up against something. It gives you stability, and it's easier to find your subject.
The 2024 announced Lumix FZ80D does have a viewfinder, but it doesn't have a tilting screen. The camera weighs in at 10.5 ounces or a hair under 300 grams, has a little grip on the side, and in your hands, it's actually feather light. The thing is tiny and virtually weightless. Now, another point-and-shoot sold by Sony, the RX100-7, is a little shorter, but the Canon has such a better zoom. But what the Sony offers is a pop-up viewfinder and a larger sensor. It also is a little thicker when you compare them side by side, and the RX100 Mark VII is way more expensive. Now, Canon versus Canon, its own G5X Mark II, which I reviewed, zoom only goes out to 120 millimeters. It has a faster aperture and is also bigger. But with the 740, you go from 24 to 960 millimeter equivalent, and that gives you a tremendous range. Sure, you get more than double the range with the Nikon P950, which goes out to 2000 millimeter equivalent, but look at that size difference. I mean, you can just slip the Canon right in your pocket really easily. Now, you could try to do that with the Nikon P950. You may not be successful though.
Well, that fits.
So released in 2018, the SX740 is the replacement model for the 730. That camera was only able to shoot in 1080p video. The 740 upped the burst rate from 6 to 10 frames per second, and the 740 also has a stronger flash and USB-C for faster image transfer.
I want to show you how fun this zoom is to use. I never get bored seeing shots from far away, then up tight. Take a look.
Sometimes you don't feel like getting too close to your subject, if you know what I mean, but the camera does have a close focusing distance, perfect for zeroing in on some delicious desserts like this. The 740 actually has a dedicated food mode on the dial, so let's take a look at that. Here's with the food mode off, and you can see with the food mode on, there's some extra saturation. Speaking of food, someone didn't enjoy their pizza and left it right on the ground, and my zoom got right in on it.
I am feeling hungry.
Now the 740 doesn't have a pop-up viewfinder, but it does have a nice pop-up flash. And I found that in practical situations, it didn't really overexpose the subject. It worked pretty nicely.
But it's not just about the zoom. This camera can actually take normal pictures too.
I don't know what normal is anymore.
So if you haven't noticed, a lot of those pictures were taken later in the day and at night, and really didn't do half bad considering it's such a small sensor. By the way, if you're getting something out of this video, please do hit that like and subscribe. A lot more videos on the way, and it does help the channel. Just one more of these zoom shots, I promise. Actually, my fingers are crossed, but that's okay. Let's get back to business. Even though this is a point and shoot camera, you may be tempted to put it in auto mode. And the problem with that is you can't control the focus. Well, so what the camera will do is when it sees the subject and when you half press the shutter button, it puts a green box over where it thinks it should focus. Although the problem is it doesn't think very well. It's almost like these green boxes appear randomly, and every time you half press the shutter button, even if you don't move the camera, it's putting the focus point in a different area. So depending if your subject is far or back, you can't tell the camera what you want to focus on. So what I recommend you do is to put the camera in the P-programmed auto mode.
And this mode, you can designate center focus. And that's where I like to leave mine, because generally your subject's going to be in the middle and the camera will always focus in the center if you designate it that way. And this generally works, except in real low light situations. If it's too dark and there's a little bit of camera motion blur, like I wanted to get this lady's mask, the focus isn't really sharp. But a lot of the times, even in low light, it focuses very well. Now, if it's very, very low light, like at this piano bar, and you're shooting video, it's going to hunt. And I want to bring this to your attention because many of you are going to use this camera in music type settings, concerts, low light situations. So this will give you an idea that yes, there is some grain. It's a small camera with a small sensor, so you need to expect that. It was very dark in here, and you can see while you're zooming, a lot of times it will hunt focus too. So try not to zoom too much while you're shooting because it takes a while to get the focus. Although in this particular scene, it really locked on pretty well, and it's really dark in here. And yes, you may have to accept the camera just the way it is.
When the light gets into your heart, hey, don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me.
Now at night with crazy concert lighting in autofocus, you could see the camera was really struggling and having problems. So what I did here was I went into manual focus, and the results are a lot better. There is a zoom assist button on the rear of the camera. It looks like that little square with arrows coming out of it. Pressing that button quickly zooms the camera back out, and then releasing it zooms it back in. So this is helpful if you're really zoomed in tight on something. Oftentimes, if the slight movement of the camera will cause you to lose your place. So you hit that button and it will zoom the camera back out. You'll find your subject again, release it, and it'll zoom it back in. This is a nice feature shared by other super zoom cameras as well. And look, all this technology packed into a little camera that you can put right in your pocket. And all of that technology not only includes good pictures, but 4K 30 video as well. And here you can see the action in Times Square in New York City. But we are vlogging in 4K. We're vlogging in 4K, but out of focus. Once again, that is a bit of a weakness of the camera, is the focus. How is the stabilization? Is that a weakness? So when you're shooting video, there's 3 modes: low, standard, and high. Now, at the highest zoom, 960 millimeters to handhold, it's tough. But let's see how the low stabilization looks. There's still some shaking. Standard doesn't seem to do much better. Again, this is being handheld at full zoom, and it crops in at the highest stabilization, but also doesn't really seem to do a better job compensating for the shake. Here's all 3 compared to each other. You should probably use a tripod at the highest zoom. So I took the camera with me to the big New York City Macy's fireworks display, and you can see this is right before the action. You can see the skyline, some grain in the skyline. But then people realized that we're standing in a spot where you couldn't see the fireworks. It's like a scene out of a horror movie, so everybody was running to a better position. Did you ever see anything like this before? Nobody knows where to go to see the fireworks. Sorry, I was sweating there. It was a bit of a hot night, but eventually we got to see the fireworks. Again, the autofocus did not cooperate. You can see these shots, zoom and wide angle, are all out of focus. But again, thankfully the camera has manual focus and it did a much better job. And surprisingly, even in just auto mode, it was not overexposed. Many times with the point and shoot camera, if you shoot fireworks just in auto, it's going to compensate for the dark sky and everything looks too bright. Now, there is a scene mode in the camera called fireworks, but these scene modes don't work in video. But despite that, I think the camera did a good job. Now, Manhattanenge happens twice a year when the sun sets along the city grid, so it appears to set right along the street. Now, this is a couple of days before it because the weather forecast wasn't good during the actual day, but it's pretty close. And I think the camera did a pretty good job capturing the colors and capturing the cool astronomical event where the sun appears to set right where the street meets, and you can sort of see that effect here. And the camera produces some nice sun flare effects as well. Now you have all these pictures and videos and you want to transfer them to your phone. Let's talk about the app which allows you to do that. It's called Canon Connect and it's available for iOS and Android, and actually it did connect. I had no trouble getting it to work. And a lot of times with these camera apps, if you've seen some of my other videos, it's a real headache, but it worked here. You're able to see all the photos and then transfer them to your phone. And you can also use the app for remote shooting. So if for some reason you don't want to press the shutter button on the camera, you can press it on the app itself. And you can use it for photos and video. A lot of these apps don't allow you to remotely shoot video. Now, if 960 millimeters isn't enough, there is a digital zoom. I'm not a big fan of it, but some people may want to see it. And this is what it looks like. 100 times, 80 times, 40 times. So this is the full optical. Now going into full digital. Like some other Canon point-and-shoot cameras, you can do time-lapse with this camera, and you have a lot of flexibility as to how many shots you're going to take. You can set how long you want the scene to be just by adjusting the values in the camera, and it'll actually stitch all the photos together in the camera to give you a nice time-lapse sequence. It's nice, you don't have to rely on any software to do it, and you can shoot it in full HD or 4K. Speaking of 4K, there is a crop in 4K. This is full 1080p, and watch how the video tightens up in 4K.
So what impresses me about this camera is its really small size. Coupled with the 40 times zoom, it's really incredible that they can put that into a camera this size. Now there are trade-offs which depress me a little bit. You may have noticed from a lot of the shots, they tend to be a little soft, especially when you're zoomed in. And this is typical of a point and shoot zoom camera. The lens just can't stay sharp throughout the entire range. And as mentioned, the autofocus struggles at times, but you know manual focus is a good workaround for that. So who is this camera for? Well, obviously if you want a long zoom camera, if you're into wildlife or birding or plane spotting, but don't want to or can't carry around a really heavy camera, there's really not many better options than this. Just about every camera that has a zoom this long is bigger and heavier. Maybe you're just getting into photography and you don't want to be intimidated by a large, big, heavy camera with an expensive price tag. This is a good way to start, a way of graduating from your cell phone. And speaking of your cell phone, well, why not just use your cell phone? Well, the zoom in cell phones cannot nearly approach this. And a lot of times those long zooms in cell phones that companies brag about, that's a digital zoom. This is a true optical zoom. A 960 millimeter optical zoom is pretty crazy. By the way, I left the credits in the comment section about the singers that were shown in this video. They really are great. If you happen to get into the New York City or Long Island area, be sure to check them out. There are a dwindling number of point and shoot cameras available for sale new these days, and we don't know how long this is going to be available. It may be discontinued by the time you see this video. The Canon SX740 HS, a really good option. It won't break your arm and it won't break the bank. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe and like, and I'll see you in the next video. I can't look through the viewfinder. I'm so used to looking through a viewfinder, but that's okay. You can get used to looking through the screen.